Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the vintage Thundercats Lion-O figure. This figure is a figure, I've had one of these when I was a kid. It's kind of cool. I've made a few Thundercats videos, but I never really went into depth about everything that you can do with this figure and all the stuff about it. Also, we're very close to the end of the funding or your ability to get in on buying the Super 7 Thundertank, and if you have any inclination of getting it, you might as well get it. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the avenues to buy it at the end of this video. So it seemed like a really good time to do another Thundercats video, and we're going to talk about Lion-O coming up. So first off, this is not my childhood one. This is just one that I found along the way like 2 decades ago, and I've just held on to it. And oddly enough, I didn't really get into collecting anything else till last year. I kind of got some more of these Thundercats, but Lion-O always was cool. He's the leader. He's what you think of, or what I think of when I think of Thundercats, and it's pretty cool. But noticing here, I have this Snarf. This Snarf is from the Companions set. He's much bigger than the one that comes with him. And I guess I never really went after a Snarf or anything like that. And I just feel like you get the bigger one, that's probably the better one. But I think a lot of people would like to have their stuff complete, would want to get the smaller one. I'll show a picture of that here in a little bit if I find one. But anyway, let's start by looking at his accessories. His sword not only has seen better days, but it does have paint apps to it from a toy from 1986, and it's got some really good paint apps. The way they put this silver in here, and then they put the silver, and you can kind of see some of the reddish and orangish shining through there. But I think the whole thing's supposed to be painted silver, so that's some rub on it. And it's also on the other side. The other side's actually painted better than that one. And then of course the whole blade's painted. Now I could go through and touch it up and make it look brand new again, but then again, it wouldn't be quite original. And a lot of people are big on original, but his sword is a big deal, and it's a big part of the show, a big part of the cartoon, you know, sight beyond sight. One of the problems with this figure is when we get to articulation, he can't do the sight beyond sight. And so that is kind of a downside to it. One of the things that kids would want to do, and that we'd want to do these days, the sight beyond sight. He comes with this claw glove here, and so I do want to point out that you can get this figure in orange or in red, like the hair's orange and the glove's orange, and more orange on that, I believe. I only have the red, so that's I'm good with that. But I don't know which one's more rare, actually. I think the orange is more rare, but it doesn't seem like it's sought after. I think people want the red more, even though it's not as rare. But anyway, it is removable, and you see his hand is painted, and there's a lot of paint chipping on the hands from constant putting on and removing of these claws here. So that's kind of a pain, I guess you could say. But still, simple, very simplistic, and not even any elbow articulation. So let's go ahead and get into articulation. Starting at the head, just side to side. And it is kind of I thought it was squishier than this. Maybe it's just gotten harder over time. I thought he had a squishier head. But anyway, moving down the shoulder, you have shoulder articulation, and that's it. And then legs, and that's it. Just a little bit at the waist. So almost no articulation. It is really a 5-point of articulation, kind of like a Star Wars figure, except much bigger. But when you look at this, they have one action feature right here. And there's debate about whether they should have included that or not. I know that toy makers always wanted to put some sort of gimmick in their toy line to make them fun, but I think kids would have had just as much fun playing with these and making their own sword slashing going on. But still, it's there, so it's there. They're not going to be including this in modern iterations for sure. A, cost, and B, it's going to mess with the articulation. But still, it's something that's quaint with a vintage toy line. So another thing here is this figure can light up. So you got to kind of find the sweet spot here and mess with it to get the eyes to light up. There they go. Now, back in the day, it was a little easier. As they get older, they're harder to get to light up. So kind of a pain, kind of a challenge, but it is cool. It is cool. What's really cool is that some of these figures, they still work 30 some odd years later. So next up I want to do some size comparisons with this guy. And the thing is, comparing him within his own toy line here, and we have Mumm-Ra the Ever-Living, which I think Mumm-Ra might be the biggest character, maybe next to Groon the Destroyer. He's also pretty big. But Mumm-Ra is, of course, the bad guy, the Ever-Living. And they're about the same height. The hat and all that head dressing stuff kind of gives Mumm-Ra a little bit more height, but Mumm-Ra is a bit more stout. And here we go with Panther over here. And this guy here is really short, but the reason they did that is so he fits into the Thundertank just right. And I think he's really one of the only few figures that fits in Thundertank right. So that kind of did that whole character a disservice, because I was like, why is he so short? But there's how he sizes, how he scales with those guys. And here's how he scales with a Sectaurs figure, a Centurion's figure, and a G.I. Joe figure. Got to represent the 3 3/4 inch era. Now, there are a lot of toy lines that were bigger than the 3 3/4 inch, a couple that were smaller, but 3 3/4 inch dominated back in the day. But yet, Thundercats with that LJN went with a larger scale for their Thundercats, and they were still successful. But so was Centurions to a point. But these guys probably weren't that successful back then. But I don't think these guys were due to the scale. But again, that gives you an idea of how big it is. So next I want to compare them to the Super 7 version, which is the most modern, up-to-date version. And there's a couple of differences. First of all, you notice the main difference in this is the coloring and the design and the articulation. They really did use kind of the He-Man body for this, which is really a pretty solid build. They seem to have fixed the ankles on this, because I have no ankle problems. On the He-Man figures I hear, those had ankle problems. So looking at this, this is a big improvement over that, but we're talking $50 figure now. So they're $45 to $50. They're very expensive. And as you can see, the sword looks more accurate like it did in the show. The paint apps are much different now than they were back then. The figure itself has a bunch of different paint apps and just a wild, crazy amount of articulation. The same amount that you would get with the He-Man figures and all of that. So you could do all the poses. You could do the sight beyond sight, I believe. I haven't done it yet. Actually, believe it or not, I haven't done that yet. But anyway, a much improved figure. And to justify the really high price point, they throw in a ton of accessories. You've got several different gloves and all that. And I think that you even get more from Super 7 than you did with the Matty Collector. But again, people like to collect vintage because they want to have what they had. But do you also like to collect figures like this that are a massive improvement over the vintage? They're still about the same size. You could almost swap them out. You could interchange between collections. So that is kind of cool. I like that they kept the same scale, or it just was a happy accident that it worked out that way. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Thundertank from Super 7. The funding is almost over. We've only got 2 days left to get your order in on this. The April 2nd it's closed, which is this upcoming Friday. So I want to say that I went ahead and placed my order for mine. I actually am going to get one through BBTS, and I'll show that here in a little bit. I'm going to get the other one through Sideshow. And there are other places you can order it, like Entertainment Earth, or straight through Super 7. But there's more options out there than that. But I mean, I just really don't need 6 options. I'm not going to get 6 of these things. But the thing is that for the price of a vintage one, complete in good condition, it's getting pretty close to $300, like $220 to $300 in that price range. And this thing is $450 plus shipping and all that stuff. So therein kind of lies the issue. Will this be better than the original? Well, it'll be bigger for sure. It'll definitely be bigger. You can fit more figures. It'll be great for display. Probably even better for display than the vintage one. But it won't have the same charm, and it won't have the same action features. So there's pluses and minuses. But again, this is something that's going to be one and done. You're not going to be able to get it again. And now we're starting to see issues where people that absolutely hated the look of the HasLab Unicron now are paying $2,000 to get one. So it's crazy. $450 sounds like a lot of money, but it's a whole lot better than $1,000 or $2,000 this time next year. Now, the difference here, and I'm going to show you real quick my BBTS. BBTS has theirs for $500, but you can ship it for, it's not free, it's the $4 flat rate shipping, but if you've got a few things shipping out at once, you know, you can get other things tagged onto that and get that flat rate shipping. That's one. Now, the other thing is there is going to be tax on top of this, so it's going to be like $5.50. That's an issue. You put $50 down, and that's all you got to put down. They'll bill you at when it ships. That's what it says in the notes. They'll bill you when it ships. Now, I never bought anything like this through BBTS, so I don't know 100%. But my $50 is already down, and so I'm only going to owe right at $500 when it comes up. So it's going to be pretty nice. I'll have it then. Now, with the Sideshow one, it's a different story. They're going to put me on a payment plan, and it's like $100 a month until it's paid off for like 5 months. Something like that. So that's actually a pretty good way to go. Also, I think Sideshow is going to end up being a little bit more expensive. It's going to be like $540 plus taxes. But with the $100 a month, you're not going to notice it as much. So I'm going to go that route also. So I'll have two because I think it is really cool. Again, I want to point out just how much bigger it is than the vintage one. It's, you know, does size really matter? Do you even have a place to display it? Would you just leave yours in the box? I mean, there's a lot of questions here to it. I am definitely going to open one and keep one sealed. And that's the way I collect most things. I like to have two, so I can open one and keep one sealed. And I will definitely have to try to chase down some junker vintage tank, so when I do a review of it, I can do my own comparison. So I hope you enjoyed this quick look at the vintage LJN Lion-O figure and the quick update on the fact that we've only got 2 days left to order the Thundertank for next year in 2022. So I'd like to know in the comments below, what do you think about this Lion-O figure? Are you in on the new figures? Are you strictly vintage? Do you not care about Thundercats at all? Are you getting the Thundertank? Do you already have the vintage Thundertank and think that's plenty good enough? Like, subscribe, Titanium Hanger, out.